Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Hi, Divya. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good this Friday morning. I'm so happy to have you with us. Thank you so much, for taking out the time and sharing a beautiful story with us. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, your family situation?
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Jessica Dean, and I have been married for 11 years, just actually celebrated my anniversary. I have a 5-year-old son, and I am 28 weeks pregnant with another boy coming at the end of December.
Beautiful.
And I, for the last 5 years, have been the working parent in our household. And my husband has played more of the like point parent with our son over the last few years.
Wow. Well, congratulations, on the upcoming pregnancy and all the best.
Thank you.
How was your first pregnancy, and how did you feel about
Mhm.
it since you were working in the workplace? What were your thoughts? What was going through your head that time?
So, first pregnancy, everything's new. So, you don't really know what to expect. But I do remember I was so tired throughout it. And one of the things I had the luxury of doing because I worked from home is I would always just like sleep until the very last minute and then roll out of bed
Yeah.
just to go, get as much sleep as I could and then go to my computer to work. In that pregnancy, I worked up until the minute I went into labor. And I went back to work when I was 10 weeks postpartum, and I did part time for a couple months before I returned full time. And at the time, I think I had put a lot of pressure on myself of what I thought was expected of me to go back, but also in my family situation, since my husband was going to be the point parent, we thought that the transition may be easier if I had like gone back part time a little bit earlier and transitioned into a new schedule. But honestly, it was too early. It wasn't something that I realized until later. And it was too early for several reasons for me. It was number one, you don't know what's going to happen in labor and delivery. And in my case, my son was in the NICU for a couple of days. And I lost 2.1 liters of blood, which made me anemic. So I had this, framework that it was really hard of like bringing this baby into the world who had a little bit of breathing problems in the beginning. We worked through it, but it just made me very nervous. And that was the way that I entered into motherhood. Plus, I was extremely fatigued with the anemia that I experienced. So by the time I basically like had my blood levels back to normal, I went back to work. And so I didn't really have a lot of time to ease into, the schedule that is always changing. And just have time to be present with my family in this new situation before I went back to work. And the other thing is, I have a history of mental health issues. And so I definitely dealt with some postpartum mental health issues that I think were made harder because I went back early. I was dealing with sleep deprivation because I breastfed full time. My baby didn't sleep through the night for a really long time. And also, starting out being extra fatigued doesn't help your mental health. So yeah, I hadn't fully considered those things in my first.
I would say it sounds crazy, but it also sounds very real because these things do happen. You plan and you think that, it's going to happen in a certain way, in a certain direction. That's what you heard from your friends. That's what your family members
Right.
do. But life can take its own turns, during a pregnancy or during the time of delivery because everything is out of your hands, really. You know, it sounds like it sounds like it was quite a ride. And so you went back so early, like within 10 weeks. How did that sort of affect you in the workplace? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie about it. It was hard on many different reasons to be leaving my baby. I was lucky that I worked from home, so I could see him at different points, but he wasn't always in the home. And so that was just like a very big emotional struggle. And I was just exhausted. I had, up those first 10 weeks, been taking naps throughout the day and sleeping a lot. But now it's like you have to be more on when you're working. And I think I worked in an environment where people were understanding, but still had the expectations that the work had to get done. So there was still that pressure, even though I was in a harder state of life.
Okay. So what kind of, let's say 5 years ago or 5.5 years ago, if somebody would have given you some advice, what do you think is the kind of advice that you can give to people now who are in the same similar situation that you wish you had known then?
I do have this time around more health conditions, and I'm at an advanced age, which requires more appointments. And they say you're a bit higher risk at that point. But I do have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's disease, and I have gestational diabetes as well. So I have a lot of medical upkeep that I have to like take my blood sugars. I have to go in for lab work more often. I have lots of medications that I have to take throughout the day. And so I have to miss more work. And I did have gestational diabetes in my first pregnancy as well. So I dealt with that. But I think that I would try to make up hours before and do extra stuff, but that's just not feasible. And it is like protected by law that if you have these health conditions, you get the time off to help deal with them and help manage with them. So I guess one of the first pieces I would say, and that I'm doing this time, is I'm very upfront with my employer about these issues so that they know I have more appointments and they're understanding about that. And I know that's not always easy. Not everybody's in that situation, but that to understand like what your rights are as a pregnant person so that you don't feel the pressure to be doing more than your body can handle in that moment. The other thing that I'm doing differently this time is because of my health conditions, I was able to reduce my hours temporarily. So that has helped me and like so much because let's face it, when you are a working parent, I'm chasing around a 5-year-old and was working 40 hours a week and dealing with all of the medical conditions as well. It's very stressful. And so by reducing the hours, I'm able to now have more time to just like breathe and take in some time to be with my family, but also it makes everything feel more manageable when there's a huge mental load. So I'd also say do what you need to do to help reduce any stress and to be able to take care of yourself and your family. The last thing that I would say is to understand what your like work policy is for your parental leave, what your state policy is, and how much time you are able to take and to maximize that time. I probably could have figured out a way in my first pregnancy to take more time off, but I had in my mind like 12 weeks is the standard time and then wanted to do part-time. So that's why I went back a little bit early. This time I'm taking 26 weeks. And the reason I'm able to do that is because Oregon now has a paid leave policy in place that they didn't have with my first. So I'm able to take 2 weeks of disability, 12 weeks of paid leave. And then my employer has a policy where my next 12 weeks I can take completely off for part-time pay. And so I would say take as much time as you can. There are studies out there that show that having at least 6 months off of work helps women to really, it helps them with their mental health because you are at such a fragile state. And so many women deal with postpartum mental health issues. And everything's changing in those first 6 months. And so it's hard to go back to work at that time. So I would just say try to take off as much time as you can. I know it's easier said than done, but figuring out what all of those rights are and how you can do it really helps.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's easier said than done, but it
Yeah.
also is absolutely true. There's a reason why people say it, and there's a reason why we just maybe we don't understand it quite at the moment. Let's say, you're ready to get back to work and you're going through all these emotions, but it's absolutely honest that you do need that time. The 6 month thing sounds, I mean, it sounds about right because one is that you've just had a baby. You need to bond with the
Yeah.
baby to kind of understand what's going on with another human being
Hmm.
in your life. And I think
Hmm.
the second is you need to figure out how you are doing as a person,
Yeah.
who's gone through so much and who's going through so much,
Yeah.
and how to kind of settle back into life or normal life, with your new normal.
Hmm.
Those extra few weeks, if you can take it, absolutely do it. This time
Hmm.
also, it sounds a little cliche, but it's not coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, like on that front, and what you were saying, with like the new normal, is I like, and I think I've heard this from many other people I've talked to. I had a lot of identity struggles after because I didn't anticipate that I would feel so distant from my previous self, and that I was like, I think I kind of was trying not to accept that there was like a new me that was coming. And I think that that's not something anybody talked to me about, is that you do evolve and you do change. And I don't feel like I really was able to ease into that for the first 14 months. So when you're going back to work and you are still kind of struggling with that, it just makes everything a lot harder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The new normal is also a new person. Whatever changes
Yeah.
happen, it does change you, and your entire family structure has changed, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, completely understand that you need to give your time to settle in, and for everyone else also to kind of, see the changes that are going on and accept, that this is kind of like, the new life, the new normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Jessica, and for all that great advice and some really usable tips, which I hope people actually think about, when they embark on their parental journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me today.